What's going on, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. I got my Mr. Breeze jersey on today, but today we're going to be talking about your select top 10 mechanics tools to buy and which manufacturers come in that top 10. We're going to start off with a list of 1 through 5 that has to do with the professional grade tool truck distributors that are out there, and the most talked about ones in the comments and throughout YouTube as far as other content creators are concerned. Then we're going to be talking about the top 5 most purchased, most talked about tools on the interwebs of Amazon and so forth. So let's kick it on off with the tool truck, starting with SnapOn. A lot of people really do enjoy SnapOn. A lot of people say buy once, cry once. That way you're not having to buy these less expensive manufacturers. You're most satisfied, but they do come at a cost, a very expensive cost. In fact, most of these tool manufacturers in the professional grade do come at a much steeper cost than the ones we're talking about later down this video. But number 1, you guys selected SnapOn tools for the win because they're just high quality. They've been around for 100 years. They still keep kicking butt. You guys say you got toolboxes that were grandfathered down from you that have just continued to hold up. A little bit of grease goes a long way on the slides. Okay, tool truck number 2, you guys said Metabo. Most of you guys talking about Metabo tools, a lot of the different styles that they have, how there's specialty tools that they make that you haven't really seen anywhere else. And granted, some of their specialty tools are rebranded, like OTC, Lang, etc. But we're not going to get into those specialty tools too much. But you guys suggested that Metabo was the most talked about second company for the tool truck distributors. Third one, SK. Now I haven't seen any SK tool trucks out here, but I've seen a lot of comments talking about the quality of SK and SK being top notch. And I'd say it's the third most talked about tool company out there. You're mostly going to see this professional tool truck kind of traveling around the Midwest. But those of you that do have SK tools that bought them either through the interwebs or that are in the Midwest that buy from the SK tool trucks, I'd say that's the third most talked about tool professional company out there. Coming in at number 4, Mac Tools. You guys talk a lot about Mac Tools. Of course, they have the RBRT, which has been phenomenal. Okay, the video that I did where I said 50% of the time works every time. That was kind of meant to be kind of a goof or fluff title because I had 2 fasteners that were rounded out and it took out one but not the other. But they are extremely great tools. The fitment on them is amazing. I haven't had any further issues with taking things out. Like Dan said, it's got to be your go-to, you know. It's meant to be the first tool that you grab every single time, and they seem to work out really well, at least the quality that I've seen through the Torx bits. Okay, number 5, and this company's not talked about too much, but it is in the top 5 as far as professional grade, so it's the last one coming in with Cornwell. Cornwell's tool products, from what I had and understood, especially with owning their tools, their sockets, their wrenches, and even their toolbox, it isn't the most widely talked about tool company out there as far as professional lineup goes. Now, David Stacy talks about them extensively. He's got an entire Cornwell lineup. Haven't really seen him talk about it too much. Don't know if he kind of retired out. But for a while there, he was the only guy really talking about Cornwell until I met Jeff when I started the Chrysler dealership and he had the Cornwell truck. Then I started buying and talking about Cornwell, kind of picking off where David Stacy left off. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the aftermarket tool companies that you guys talk about most frequently on here. Coming in at number 1, now I don't know how much better they are actually than Gearwrench. Gearwrench would be my number 1 in this situation, but the most commonly talked about, best bang for your buck, highest quality, you guys suggested Tecton being the most talked about tool company throughout the comments and through a lot of the videos that I've seen on YouTube. So they're going to come in at number 1 on this list. Number 2, Capri Tools. I know this is kind of a surprise. I would have also guessed that Gearwrench would have came in, but you guys have talked about Capri Tools wildly more than you have Gearwrench, so I got to give it to them for number 2. Though I haven't tried any Capri Tools out, you guys did list it as one of the top most talked about tools through the comments and through the interwebs. I'd like to eventually try out some Capri products, but I think all in due time. I'm still kind of going through some things here in the garage, trying to figure out what I can clear out and sell so that way we can move on and try some other products such as Capri. Okay, moving on to the next one. Coming in at number 3, yes, Gearwrench comes in at number 3. A lot of people say that they do enjoy the quality that Gearwrench has to provide, and they do have a lot of tools that you're going to find as far as entry level and even intermediate level, and that they are fair pricing. You can find them in the big box stores. So they would come in at number 3. Their warranty is just as good as Tecton, as good as Capri, as good as Lang. I mean, basically you have an issue, you take a picture, you send it in to them, they're gonna go ahead and warranty it out and get another one sent to you. Granted, it's not as easy as going into a big box store and interchanging them. I hope that Icon actually does something where you can actually go in and not just warranty out one item, but let's say that you lost an item. It would be wildly beneficial if they just sold the one item. I know you guys talk about 10 millimeters and 8 millimeters going missing, but like, what if you lost a wrench or something like that because it grew legs and walked off? It would be nice if you can actually replace it by just buying the one. I hope to see this in the coming future, or if nothing else, be able to have the ability to ordering specifically just the one that you're missing. Okay, let's move on to the next one. You guys said Icon being the most talked about, which is kind of an interesting little segue from what I just got done talking about, moving on to the next one. But yes, it is wildly talked about in the comment section. I think that pretty close to Gearwrench, because a lot of people have done videos on them as far as content creators go, but in the comments section there's a lot of yay and there's a lot of nay as far as the product and it being overpriced. But I think it is the next one that is probably the most talked about one. A lot of questions still being asked about their toolboxes, the reduced pricing, what new products are coming out with, etc. If they're ever going to do individualized tools for the lost ones, which we just talked about. I think that's going to be the next one on the list. Now we're going to go ahead and dive into the next one, which is going to come in at number 5, I think. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about number 5, which is it's really difficult to say who's more talked about, because a lot of the companies that you guys made mention of in the comments, it's all really close. I don't really know who to give this to, okay? Because there's a lot of talk about Wera. You guys got a lot of talk about Ulsa Tools. There's a lot of talk about CANIPIX. There's a lot of talk about Nico. There's a lot of talk about Vessel. So some of these companies don't have a huge variety of tool products that they offer. They're still relatively fresh. Some of you guys have access to monsters. So I don't know. 5 is really too tough of a choice. If I really had to venture and say, I would say CANIPIX probably coming in number 5, because it is a little bit more talked about than some of the other products out there, but granted, they are also limited on what it is that they actually sell and provide. But going to go ahead and give it to them at number 5 as far as the most talked about. Not necessarily the most tools offered, but definitely the most talked about. Okay, so do you guys agree with my list? Look, this is my top 10, okay? We're breaking it up into top 5s really, but it's a top 10 rule. We got our top 5 professional tool categories as far as most talked about to least talked about. We got our top 5 as far as aftermarket tools that you can buy online or in store. They're the most talked about or most reviewed products on the internet. So we kind of broke it down into 2 different segments, but I overall wanted to create this video so that way it can raise the discussion, because maybe there are some other tool companies that I didn't quite mention. Maybe there's some tool companies that you feel like need to be talked about a little bit more, that people need to do more reviews on. We're not talking about Milwaukee or any of the cordless options. We're not talking about any construction tools. We're pretty much specifically keeping this to automotive, maybe even aviation and some of the heavier line stuff. But this is pretty much your guys' list as far as the comments that I've seen, as far as the videos that I've seen being produced. And I think it's a pretty fair assumption that this is probably the most top 10 companies between professional lineup, DIY, or internet purchasing lineup goes. So that's all I got for this video, guys. Look, I hope you wanted to throw some comments down here. If you liked today's video, smash a thumbs up. Share if you want to share. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down. Make sure to subscribe for future topics. You guys really do drive the content on this channel between the discussions that we have in the comments, as well as questions that I'm being asked in through like Instagram, Facebook, etc. So I really appreciate all your guys' support, and also sharing your experience with these tools and how long you've had them for, and what you feel like the quality is. I just recently got a handful of comments about Sunex, which has been very few and far between as far as discussion topics go, but I think they are in the mix as well. But go ahead and feel free to throw some other tool companies down there that we didn't talk about, Craftsman, you know, maybe even the Pittsburgh lineup, etc. I'd be curious to see what other tool company that you might put in for the 5th choice, since it is so close as far as the most talked about. That's all I got for this video, guys. Thanks as always for watching. Cheers to those of you that have your beers, and I hope you're enjoying your weekend, getting ready to step into a hopefully busy work week. Get you guys paid. Stay greasy. Cheers and deuces.